Hey everybody, it's Rockula, and welcome back to Rockula Retrospective. This is the weekend re-review of Season 5, Episode 6 of The Walking Dead, and it is called Consumed. All right, it's Thursday night, the 20th of November. It's about 10:45 Central Time, and I decided to get a little bit of a jump on the weekend re-review. I've gone through all the reviewers, and there's pretty much a general consensus about everything in this episode. There's a little variances here and there, but pretty much everybody is on the same page. And one of the questions that has arisen from the 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 watching of everybody's reviews is: did the hospital cops run uh, Beth down, and did they run Carol down on purpose? Because it kind of fits in now with their MO. It's like, how did Beth get a broken wrist and, a cut on her face? It's because they led her out, and then when she got out to the road, they biffed her. So when they saw Carol, I think they did the same thing. So that's my theory. Is I think the hospital cops not only ran Carol down, but they ran Beth down. And here's the big uniting thing between all of the reviewers and fans, and that is the van drop. And everybody's under the same consensus that that was bullshit right there. It's like, I covered it in the full review, which by the way you should watch here. And it's like, I'm not buying it. Nobody's buying it. I mean, the van was precarious and then it dropped, and I even saw some other behind the scenes footage, and that van dropped on its fucking top. So everybody is in agreement that the van drop was bullshit. Then my friend Millard was watching my full review, and he goes, "Hey, you notice that the guys in the walkers in the Skyway all have little, not little, but they have blood holes on them." And that, he's like, they got stabbed. And some people say shot, but I think if you came up on people that were asleep, you wouldn't waste bullets on them. You'd stab them. So my money is for stab wounds, but it could be shot wounds. And this is something that brings up a point that I brought up in the full review, and that is when the hospital cops were being followed by Daryl and Carol. The one cop gets out, and then he just removes a bunch of debris from the street. And I suggested that that was a subtle form of path of least resistance, where go down the clear street, don't go down the crappy street with a bunch of crap all over it. I think I saw some barbed wire. And then this time, was the Skyway another subtle hint that you should not go towards anywhere on the perimeter of the hospital? And I don't know if we'll find out about that or not, but it does seem to be a pretty good technique where you're going to put barriers in people's way, but it's not the kind of barrier that is obvious, like a big pile of cars blocking off a street, or like Dawn of the Dead kind of 18 wheelers in front of the the entrances. No, this is more of a thing of here's an easy way to go and here's the hard way to go. And it looks like the hard way to go is around the perimeter of the hospital. So that's just something that I think is going on. Now, here we come. We're going to review the reviewers, and a big shout out to Shannon Tui because she gave me a big shout out. And other than Two Dead Girls, it's really nice now to start interacting with other Walking Dead reviewers because I really do want to get into this and see what everybody has to say. There's another guy that's doing pretty much the kind of stuff that I want to do, which is not just doing one episode a week where you're doing your full review. What you're doing is your initial reaction review, your full review, and then you got a follow-up review. Well, this guy Kev Says So is another guy that I like, that he's doing kind of what I want to do, but he's been doing it longer and therefore he's got a lot more viewers than I do. But I really like Kev Says So, and he answered a question that I had from the full review, which is it wasn't a question, it was an observation that I made that I was wrong about. And that is that Carol was the person with the book about surviving childhood abuse, but actually that's Tom Sawyer. When you look back at the episode, I thought in my head she had put the Survivor book in her backpack, but it was her putting Tom Sawyer, which belonged to Lizzie. And that means that Daryl was the person who had the childhood abuse book, and that solves the question right there. Then there is a person who commented on Kev Says So's video that I watched on this episode, and he confirmed that when Carol was in the car and it said "Pardon Our Dust" on there, Rogue Member says that was the car that Sam and Anna were in season 4, and they wrote that on the car. And now we get to Hotel Angel, and Hotel Angel has a really good theory, and that is when they liberate the hospital, will Carol opt to stay behind and possibly take care of any people at the hospital that won't be fit enough to... First of all, we don't know how many people are at the hospital. We don't know how many cops there are at the hospital. I may have counted 4 or 5. Well, there's one down, and that's Officer Rapey. We know for sure he's not there anymore. But, there could be about 4 or 5 cops. And I think that our group could take them really easily. But yeah, will Carol take over? And here's the other thing. If Carol takes over the hospital, she's going to be kind of taking care of more weak-willed individuals. And that would be a perfect place for Gabriel Stokes to wind up as Carol's, little toady dude. So he doesn't have to go, kill walkers himself. But that's just a little side point that may or may not happen. Then I started watching The Talking Dead, and I first watched The Talking Dead last season, and it just seemed to me like people talking about the show and promoting the show. It's like, oh yes, I agree. And it's, oh yes, this was a great episode. And, it's like TV people agreeing with themselves about how great the show is that they're on. So I kind of discounted it, but everybody keeps going, you need to go watch The Talking Dead so that you could do a more informative review. And so I saw that Yvette Nicole Brown brought up a point that there's a lot of scenes in season 5 where walkers are behind some kind of transparent barrier. Most of the time it's glass, like in this episode with the adult and child walkers behind the glass in the office. You got walkers behind the glass in the bus crash. You got walkers behind the, I'm assuming they're ventilation grates down in the basement of the hospital. But it is a repeating theme, and that is walkers trapped or not able to get at humans and kind of swarming on one spot. Oh, yeah, it was walkers in the school with Gareth and the Terminus crew. So I tried to find any new episode 7 information, and I looked up the New Zealand trailer, and I believe it's called Crossed. And I just couldn't find anything new. It's basically the same coming attractions. I keep saying coming attractions, but you know what I'm talking about. Next week on The Walking Dead stuff, previews. And that is Carl talking to somebody about nutting up and learning how to defend yourself. And we all know that that's going to be Gabriel, but you never can tell. And then you got Dawn and Beth, and then a little glimpse of Glenn. So looks like there's going to be a couple of storylines together in the next episode. And I don't really have any predictions that I haven't already talked about. So, okay. The other thing is I was going to start doing live reactions with Meat Pie, but last weekend I got invited to Primus on Sunday, and Meat Pie's going to be out of town. So I'm going to go back to doing the edited live reaction review on Sunday night. Then I'll do the full review on Monday. So I hope to see you. Please comment, like, and subscribe. Tell me if you have any answers to any questions, or if you have any questions that need to be answered. And I'll make sure to address them in the next episode. I'm Rockula, and this is Rockula Retrospect.